Jacob observed the man in front of him for a long time before he smiled and said, "Are you jokey? We must have not seen each other for 30 years. You look like a big boss. You have made a fortune?" Jokey shook his head and said, "I can't compare to you, Jacob. In the words popular among children nowadays, you were the rich second generation back then. The Wilson family back then did have something." At that time, Mr. Wilson was in his prime, and he made a lot of money when he went to the sea for the first time in business, so Jacob was also very good at that time. His pocket money could not be less than half of his classmates combined. It was precisely because of the money that Elaine from other classes took the spotlight. At this time, Jacob heard others say that he was a rich second generation, and was about to be humble. He didn't expect that a middle-aged man and a young man came out at this time. The middle-aged man approached him and suddenly snorted and said, "The second generation is also rich. That is, you are from a foreign country. I don't know his condition. I tell you, now the Wilson family has been completely cold, and Jacob, our man of the year, has a hard time now." Jacob looked a little ugly, and said, "Panming, what are you talking about? I live my life, do I need you to tell me?" Jokey hurriedly said, "You two are really the same. After so many years, how can you pinch as soon as you meet? When you were in college, you would pinch every day. You are all this age, and you still can't forget about robbing a girlfriend?" Jacob snorted and said proudly, "What can I do with him? He is just my subordinate defeat. At that time, after people were with me, Panming was jealous and drank big drinks in the bedroom every day. He'd cry when he drunk too much. He couldn't wait to strip me alive. Ha 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 ha." At this time, a lot of middle-aged and elderly people came around. When everyone heard this, they all smiled and agreed. Panming was really infatuated back then. He remembered that during that time, he cried every day. His eyes were so swollen that he couldn't see it. Yeah, haha, at that time everyone said Panming was a love type. Charlie listened to the conversation with a few people, and couldn't help feeling surprised. Unexpectedly, Jacob and this Panming are still rivals in love? Does this Panming also like Elaine? Can a fire pit like Elaine attract so many people to jump in? Are these two people so blind? When Panming heard so many people teasing about his own things in the past, he suddenly became angry again, and said coldly to Jacob, "Jacob, you are too irresponsible to talk. You said I am your defeated opponent? What a joke. Where did you win? Has Han Meiqing come with you? Who doesn't know, Meiqing left the United States and dumped you." Meiqing? Charlie heard this and finally understood that it was not Elaine that the two people grabbed back then. The students around also laughed. Someone patted Jacob on the shoulder and asked curiously, "By the way, Jacob, why did Meiqing break up with you back then?" "Yes. Everyone has been curious about this matter for decades. What's the matter?" Jacob did not expect that everyone would start to surround him and ask about the past that was unbearable, so he waved his hands with an awkward expression. "Oh, don't mention the past things." Charlie suddenly caught a bit of pain in Jacob's awkward expression. Could it be that in the past between the old father-in-law and the mother-in-law, what is there? At this moment, Charlie couldn't help but whispered to the old master, "Dad, who is this anti-Han Meiqing that everyone is talking about?" Jacob gave him a blank look, and whispered, "Don't open the pot." Charlie shrugged and said nothing more. But when Panming saw more and more people coming, he looked arrogant and introduced the young man around him, saying, "Everyone, let me introduce you. This is my son-in-law Jones Jian." In the internet industry, he started his own company, and now the company will soon be listed on the growth enterprise market. Is going to be listed? Jokey couldn't help but exclaimed, after listing, the company's market is worth hundreds of millions, right? Hundreds of millions? Panming curled his lips and blurted out, "Let's talk about starting with $1 billion. You don't want to think about how difficult it is to go public now. How can a company without certain strength pass so many rounds of review by the Securities Regulatory Commission? With that, Pan Ming said with great pride, I tell you that when my son-in-law's company goes public, the market value must be over 1 billion. The performance of their company has risen very fiercely over the past 2 years. If you are interested to make money, you must buy the stocks of their company at that time. Pan Ming's son-in-law Jones Jian hurriedly said, Dad, don't brag for me. I'm just an entrepreneur who has just achieved something. Your old classmates hide dragons and tigers. Which row of juniors like me is the top number? Jones Jian's modesty won the favor of many people at the scene. An old master with silver hair sighed, Oh, Pan Ming, your son-in-law is really young and promising, and he is humble and low-key. He is a good son-in-law. Of course. Pan Ming nodded proudly, then deliberately looked at Jacob and asked, Jacob, what does your son-in-law do?